On this channel, you've seen about half a dozen vlogs showing you what my night shifts are like, the patients that I see, and the lessons that I learn. Aside from the medical knowledge I picked up, I definitely learned a thing or two about what to do on night shifts and what can make them much more manageable. Even if you nail just one of these, I promise it'll be worth it. Let's get started. Hands down, the number one struggle on night shifts is fatigue. You will definitely have moments where you're fighting to stay awake. The goal is to make your night shift as safe and painless as possible for you and your patients. So number one is definitely going to be adjust your sleep pattern. Now, from the not very rigorous poll that I did, all the doctors that I came across basically did a variation of this. They would sleep straight after the night shift, so from about 9 AM until the afternoon, about 2 PM. They would then go about their normal day and have another nap from around 6 PM to 8 PM before heading into work for another night shift. Some people find it more beneficial to just sleep all morning until late afternoon, so around 5 PM, and then just stay awake until their night shifts. It really depends on what type of sleeper you are, how easily you're able to fall asleep, and how busy your household is. Now, I don't know your habits and sleep needs, so just listen to your body and give it as much sleep as you can during your night shifts. You're gonna need it. Prioritize this as the number one. I know it can be very frustrating to just feel like you're sleeping all day and you're not getting anything done, but remember you're switching day into night, so that's completely normal. Try and avoid revenge procrastination. It's a real thing and you will definitely regret it if you have a string of nights ahead of you. The next one we're going to talk about is another basic need. If you look after these two, you will survive the night shift as a bare minimum. Food and drink. On my first couple of night shifts, I did not think to bring snacks with me, and I was very, very hungry by the end of it and very low on energy. So that is definitely not a good idea. Here's what I did on my better nights. At the end of my shift, so in the morning, I would eat something when I got home, slept until the afternoon. When I woke up again, I'd have a snack, go about my day, and then sleep again, like I said, from about 6 to 8 PM. At that point, before I got into my shift, I would have a proper dinner. I would then bring some food with me for the night shift. First, I would bring a proper meal in Tupperware, but I soon found out that nights are so unpredictable. Sometimes I'd be able to sit down and have my food, and other times I'd just be running around, and it wasn't very convenient. So I would definitely recommend bringing something that you can very quickly eat if you need to, something like a sandwich. On top of that, bring enough snacks to assume that you won't have time to eat your proper food. So for example, I would stuff one of my pockets with dried fruit and nuts, and that would get me through the nights where I didn't have time to stop and eat proper food. The other thing is water. Now, I would strongly recommend carrying your water bottle with you. If you need to, buy a small one that you can easily carry around. It is very likely that you will lose it at some point. I did have to go around the hospital finding my water bottle sometimes, but leaving it in the office and assuming that you'll have time to come back and hydrate is not a good idea. You will not hydrate throughout the night if you do that. So unless your hospital has water coolers everywhere, bring your water bottle with you and just keep sipping throughout the night. The next tip is also related to energy levels, and that's your pacing. When you start your nights, especially for the first time, you're going to want to run to every news call and just go straight to wherever you're called in the hospital. You'll then start to notice that the doctors with more experience around you don't run to news calls. You might want to follow their lead. The only time you definitely need to run is for a crash call. For the rest, just walk. Walk at a fast pace if the patient is unwell, and walk at a slower pace if you think it's not urgent. Your night shift can last 12 hours, and if you exhaust yourself in the first hour running around the hospital, you're not going to be able to keep up, and that will be a horrible experience for you, and it will also be unsafe for your patients. So do yourself and your patients a favor and make sure you last the 12 hours. This takes us to my next tip, which is prioritize. While the first 3 tips you can just implement, prioritization is a key skill that you will pick up at work, especially on your on-calls. It can mean the difference between life and death, and that prescribing paracetamol for a small niggle is not the same as somebody vomiting blood or chest pain with ECG changes. While these are obvious, it can be really tricky to prioritize some other ones. And because that takes time to learn, initially your pace will be much quicker because you'll go to more things that aren't as urgent, and slowly with experience you'll manage to sort through them and your night shifts will be easier. While you can't just magically learn how to prioritize for your first night shift, keep it at the back of your mind so that you notice how other doctors and your seniors prioritize, and maybe keep a note of the patients that you saw and how you prioritize them to see how you can do better. Hospitals function and work as a team. Nurses with doctors, with porters, with HCAs, with physiotherapists, with dietitians. You all work together with the patient at the center. There isn't one person who will have all the answers. Don't try and do everything yourself, especially on a night shift. You won't know best and you won't have the time to do it all. So when you're on your night shift and a nurse calls you about a patient with chest pain, instead of doing the patient a disservice and making them wait half an hour for you to finish seeing your patient and then going across the hospital to see them, delegate some tasks. Once you've asked the nurse questions to identify how poorly the patient is, kindly ask them to do a set of observations, an ECG, and to prepare the notes for you. If you set the ball rolling, by the time you see the patient, you'll have the ECG, you'll have all the information in front of you, and you'll be able to manage the patient more effectively, saving you, the patient, and the nurse time and worry. Last but not least, ask for help. If you don't know, say something. If you're dealing with a patient who has chest pain and you've looked at the ECG but you're not sure if there's some changes, don't stay silent, don't just ignore it, show it to someone, ask for advice. That way it's more safe for the patient, and whatever happens, whether there are changes or not, you will know better for next time. Now, how to ask for help is the question, especially on a night shift. For something like potential ECG changes, I would definitely not call the medical registrar. They are the port of call overnight and they are generally extremely busy. I would, however, speak to my SHO, so the senior house officer. As you'll have seen in the vlogs, typically before a night shift, you all get together in a room with a medical registrar, the SHO, the F1, and all the other team members. At this point, I would either get their bleep number or share phone numbers so that I can text them if I need help throughout the nights. So on my first few night shifts, I either texted or called the SHO if I needed help, and sometimes we would even go around to see patients together, which was also another great way to learn. As I progressed through my on-calls, I needed to call less and less. Everybody understands this, it's how it works. Right now, you're the F1 going on your first shift, and then all of a sudden you're the SHO helping the new F1 with their first shift. And you'll see throughout your on-calls, you'll need to ask for advice less and less, and you'll just know how to deal with situations because you've dealt with them before. Remember, you're in a training post. This is part of your education, so be as safe as you can and ask when you need for help. I really hope you found these tips useful. If you have any questions at all or tips that you'd like to share, drop them in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!